নমস্কার সকলকে। কফি হাউস এক্সপিরিয়েন্সের নতুন পর্বে আপনাদের সকলকে স্বাগত জানাই। আমাদের আজকের অতিথি মিস্টার Avelo Roy. Welcome, Avelo.
Thank you so much.
Right. So Avelo is someone who has worn many hats in his career thus far. Uni currently serve করছেন as the managing director of Kolkata Ventures. তাছাড়া উনি বিভিন্ন কলেজে across the world mentorship talks দিয়েছেন, উনি TED Talk host করেছেন, আর he has another aspect to his persona where he is an active member of ISKCON, and he tends to apply lessons from the Bhagavad Gita to his management activities. I think that's a very brief summary of what Avelo's overall persona is. We'll pick up the many strands as we take forward this conversation. The প্রথম প্রশ্ন আপনার জন্য is the very cliched one. How did you reach where you are now? So you have had a very varied journey in the sense that you left Calcutta, went to the States, started up there. Tarpore, you relocated back to Calcutta, and that must have been a sea change for you. Like, there's a very common joke that the First Amendment of the US guaranteed free speech, while the First Amendment of India curtailed free speech. So it's like a full 360-degree change. So if you could just expand on your journey.
Sure. So I come from a long lineage of political personalities in my family, and politics was always my first choice. But my mother said it ends with me. Amar pore ar keu na, so tumi onno kichu koro. So তখন I as a class 8 এ পড়তাম, and I was kind of thinking কি করব লাইফে, এবং problem solve করা is my passion, to be honest. That's what I found out. It's not politics, actually solving problems, making people happy. সেটা কিভাবে করা যায়, and entrepreneurship was another option of doing that. So I wrote a letter to Bill Gates যে আমি তোমার business partner হতে চাই, and I never thought he would respond, but he did respond, saying, grow up, and after a few years we can talk. And I was like, wow, Bill Gates respond করেছে. That was my inspiration, and I was going in that path, and I thought ki entrepreneurship startups India te kichi chilo na oi shobai. This was early 2000s. So I decided to after my Cambridge education, I went to the US for my engineering, and okhane I started studying as an engineer. I was looking for opportunities to build a startup and whatnot. I ended up actually doing politics first. So I ran for election, won the student government vice president position and whatnot, and thereafter I was actually able to build the constitution for our Senate. Which is very significant because my great grandmother built the constitution for India. She was one of the people who wrote the constitution for India. So Sarojini Naidu, right? So that was that, and then I came across entrepreneurship, got the right ecosystem, right mentors, commercialized my patent pending product, and thereafter 8 businesses, 3 exits. Last maybe 2016 I came back to Kolkata. তো তখন মানে just startup revolution টা মানে ইন্ডিয়াতে শুরু হচ্ছে, it's getting popular, and it was the right time actually. I thought আমি কি করব, because family business and all is not my cup of tea, it's more like traditional business, but for me startups is I breathe startups, right? So that's what I saw the opportunity. যে আমি যেটা পেয়েছি, যে ইকোসিস্টেমটা শিকাগোতে পেয়েছি, এখানকার ছেলে মেয়েদের নেই, and I was actually invited to a business plan competition by a local college here, and that's what I saw. যে 5 কোটি টাকা ইনভেস্টমেন্ট চাইছে, but একটা ওয়েবসাইটও নেই, কোনো proof of concept নেই, there's nothing, and it's not their fault. And আমার সঙ্গে অন্য জাজরা যারা ছিল তারা তো ওদের প্র্যাকটিক্যালি মানে গালি দিচ্ছে,
এক্সপোজারই নেই।
হ্যাঁ, but I understood যে it's not their fault, business family থেকে আসছে না, কে শেখাবে ওদেরকে, and I thought, why not me? I have this, and my mentors always said, give it forward, right? And so it was my duty to give it forward. So Kolkata Ventures was my first weekend banalam. My co-founder Neeraj, he's from IIT Kharagpur, myself, and we put together and we did a little market research. যে কি মিসিং কলকাতাতে, কেন কিছু হয় না, কেন ব্যবসা হয় না, কেন লোকে বলে বাঙালির ব্যবসা হয় না, And what we saw যে এখানে সবই আছে, NASCON, টাইফাই, অনেক কিছুই আছে, বাট কেউই আমার সঙ্গে হাত মেলালো না। সবাই বললো যে না না, we don't need NRI to come and tell us what to do, we are good enough,
Right.
তখন ঠিক আছে ভাই, ইগো করো, doesn't matter, I'll do it on my own, একলা চলো রে। And we started, and what I realized is lot of consultants, lot of mentors, lot of motivational speakers, but very few
Right.
successful entrepreneurs hand holding startups to take them to where they want to be. And I have been fortunate to get the founder of Garage Door Openers, Craig Duchessois, the founder of Barcode Scan, that's Ed Kaplan. These are
Right.
people who have like helped me, CEO of Nokia at the time before iPhone came out. These were the best people in the industry who were helping me. Just because I was there in Chicago at my university, there were trustees and whatnot. So I'm like, why not bring that to Kolkata? So I started bringing US people to Kolkata, actually.
Okay.
Instead of Bangalore and Bombay, so 2016 I was starting like Shabai Kolkata issue. So I just, and they were actually helping, and we were able to get amazing traction with our startups. And so very quickly, we got a lot of press coverage. A lot of US government actually stepped in. They said, you know what, তুমি আমেরিকায় পড়াশোনা করেছো, আমেরিকায় ব্যবসা করেছো, let us use you as a marketing piece for us to show the
Right.
Indian government this is our contribution. So let us also join hands with you. So it was fantastic. So US government to চলে এলো, Indian government, DST, Department of Science and Technology, IIT Kharagpur. So we got some really good strategic partners, and we were like, let's conquer East India and make things happen here. So সেই থেকে জিনিসটা শুরু। এখন we are now in 5 countries, and I'm very proud to say when we incubate startups in Canada or US or UK, Bangalore or Gurgaon, the Kolkata Ventures, right, is incubating. So as a
That
Bangli, I
stands.
feel very,
Right.
very, very happy when that happens. Or কি বলে নামটা চেঞ্জ করো, কলকাতাটা সরিয়ে দিলেই সব ঠিক আছে। না না না, কলকাতার নামটা থাকবে, but the brand will change.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. In fact, এটা একটা strand যেটা will pick up later. তার আগে I wanted to understand the startup ecosystem in India in general. তো যতটা আমি বুঝি, we had a phase in the early 2000s when a couple of companies were starting up. You had the entire dot-com crash. In the mid 2000s, you had the likes of Naukri or Make My Trip, who were the only startups on the street. Tara somehow struggle করছে, they are kind of struggling along, চলছে till 2009, when you have Flipkart. And I think that's when I was in my first year of college, তখন আমরা সেই হেডলাইন গুলো পড়তে শুরু করি, সিরিজ এ তে ফ্লিপকার্ট এত রেস করেছে, এটসেট্রা এটসেট্রা এটসেট্রা। And then 2016, bam, you have the geo revolution coming in, data becomes cheap. And if you would like to classify India as India Premier, India A, India B, India C, India B also started getting access to internet, which was earlier not the case, right? So I want to understand, are there any mental models you use to classify the Indian demographic space, to think about how feasible a new startup idea is? And in general, how do you understand the changing trends in society? Because I feel being a venture capitalist is like putting your money where your mouth is. You do some future gazing, you kind of uncover a trend and you put your money there. So how do you go about this process?
So first of all, when it comes to the startup, what matters more than anything is the founders, right? If they are driven and they have some validity, some credentials, and the right mindset, that is the almost like 80% is that.
Okay.
The rest is the idea scalable? Is it tech enabled? Is the market hungry enough? Is a big enough market? Can I get a 20x return on investment minimum in the next 3 to 5 years? Those are things that are there. But the thing is, the founder is right that even if those things are not right, they can be fixed. They can be, kore kore shikhe jabe. You'll dynamically figure out your way through the maze. But if the founders are not right, generally আমাদের এতে কমিউনিটিতে বলা হয় যে mediocre idea, amazing founder, success highly likely. Great idea, mediocre founder, almost failure guaranteed.
Okay.
That's pretty much the model. It's the founder first, and then market to অনেক সময় product market fit ঠিক করে বোঝা যায় না। You build, you test, you learn. You build, you test, you learn. You build, you test, you learn, and from that you figure out, আচ্ছা আমি এটা ভাবছি না এদিকে গেল। Like we have had situations where we're thinking, okay, this will be great for millennials. Turns out it's great with 60-plus-year-olds who have a lot of money and a lot of time in their hands, and nobody's looking at them. Nobody's catering to their needs. And turns out they're the biggest players in terms of revenue. In terms of shouting and free model, it's the millennials, but more of the paying customers are senior citizens. So that happens all the time. So there is some ways of predicting it, but it can never be accurate unless you do it. You see the analytics and you make data backed pivoting. That ঠিক আছে এটা বুঝলাম এখানে এই ডেটাটা এই শো করছে and I didn't think of it, but this is where the trend is going, so let's follow the data.
So one follow-up question to this question is, typically in India, as things stand, আমার যা মনে হয় starting up is somewhat of a luxury. If একটা typical founder এর জন্য basic concerns are earning for his money or her money after they graduate, starting up will not be that common a career track they would like to pursue. তো আমার এখানে প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে যে, as we discussed, right, India can be divided into India 1 Alpha, India 1, India 2, India 3. It's typically the model that Sajid Pai follows of Bloom Ventures. So most of these guys who you are dealing with, who would want to start up, they would either belong to India 1 or India 1 Alpha, who are like equivalent to your first world countries. India 2 and India 3 are obviously lower income countries. They would be something like, say, Philippines or sub-Saharan Africa, respectively. Would India 1 entrepreneurs be able to think ideas for India 2 and 3? Because I think that's where your untapped market is, and that's essentially your India growth story.
Srinjoy, I don't believe in those kinds of models. The reason why I say that is because I see the difference. I mean, whatever I think, I get shattered because it's amazing. I mean, we even got incubates in Jammu and Kashmir, where you would think, যে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে government সব internet বন্ধ করে রেখেছে, e-commerce কিছু হবে না. These guys are minting money. They have literally like ওরা মানে big basket copycat করে, Dunzo copycat করে. They're making money and people are actually buying the products, and it's just like, whoa, I've never seen Jammu and I'm hearing like জিনিস হচ্ছে. So the point is, I don't go with those kinds of models because that's not how India is. India is chaotic. Whether you look at it culturally, geographically, you just go on the street, you'll see. মানে অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট হয় না কি করে বিদেশিরা ভাবে এখানে, how do the cars drive like that and not get into collision? But that's how India is, and that chaos is who we are. So there is no line that I can draw and say, this is the developed nation type, this is a Filipino type. I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you what's happening. তুমি যেটা বলছো, can I say to me, is that all right?
Absolutely perfect, yeah.
So তুমি যেটা বলছো যে হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, যারা একটু tier 1 মানে একটু ভালো ফ্যামিলি, তাদের জন্য স্টার্টআপ করাটা ইজি, কিন্তু যারা গরিব ফ্যামিলি থেকে তাদের নয়. Thankfully Jio has destroyed that class deviation, because এখন সবাই ইউটিউবে যাচ্ছে, সবাই দেখছে, ইংলিশ না বুঝলেও আস্তে আস্তে বুঝে যাচ্ছে দেখতে দেখতে ভিডিওগুলো, and they're having access to world class mentors and interviews and podcasts like yourself, where they're learning. And the kind of ambition, মানে I'll just tell you, আমার জন্মদিন একটা মেয়ে সুন্দরবন থেকে লিখেছে যে স্যার আমার বাবাকে বাঘ খেয়ে নিয়েছিল, আমার মা অনেক কষ্ট করে আমাকে পড়িয়েছে, and I never thought I could do a startup, but আপনার একটা ভিডিওতে আপনি বলেছেন যে I need only a phone and data connection to start a startup, আমি করেছি এবং আমি টাকা রোজগার করছি সুন্দরবনে বসে. I had tears in my eyes reading that, and there are so many such stories. So the point is, Srinjoy, 99% of the population is not meant to be entrepreneurs, whether you're a city dweller or a villager or you're from the slums. 99% not meant to be entrepreneurs. Of the 1%, they will figure out a way. They're strugglers, they're warriors, they'll figure out a way to make it happen. That's what entrepreneurship stands for me. It is not tomar baba ke, tomar maa ke. In fact, mostly rich kids I see struggle the most. আমার কাছে আসে এসে বলে, বাবা 1 কোটি টাকা দিয়েছিল, 1 বছরে শেষ হয়ে গেছে, অফিস টফিস করে, আপনি এবার টাকা দিন. হ্যালো বাচ্চা, বাবার টাকা পুড়িয়েছে আবার আমার টাকা. But the point is, I see the rich kids struggling more, whereas the tier 2, tier 3 city kids are doing far better because they're serious. For them, they have a gun to their head. It is the survival instinct that makes sure they don't fail. এই যে একটা স্টাইলিশ কথা হয়েছে না, সবাইকে ফেল করতে হবে, and that's become a luxury now. ফেল তো হয়, দিস ইজ ফেলিয়ার, মানে আই এম আ সিরিয়াল এন্টারপ্রেনার, একটা স্টার্টআপ ফেল করে গেল, আরেকটা করলাম, আরেকটা ফেল করলো, আরেকটা করলাম, এবার বলে দিল লিঙ্কডইনে গিয়ে সিরিয়াল এন্টারপ্রেনার আমি এই বানিয়েছি, as if ফেল করাটা একটা ব্যাজ অফ অনার হয়ে গেছে. আই এম নট সেইং that you shouldn't fail, it is part of success, but so you know what I'm trying to say here. But the point is, যারা নাকি সিটি ডেভেলপার, তাদের কাছে ঠিক আছে So what? It's fashionable. But যারা গরিব তাদের বলে ভাই আমাকে বাবা মাকে দেখতে হবে, আমার আমার একটা বাড়ি তৈরি করতে হবে, my বোনের বিয়ে করতে হবে, I need to make revenue. One guy বর্ধমান থেকে he ran to my home, বাড়ি থেকে পালিয়ে এসেছে আমাদের, এসে বলে স্যার আমাকে 8 লাখ টাকা দিন, আমি স্টার্ট আপ করবো। আলাম দেখো আমি এটিএম মেশিন নই এবং ইনভেস্টমেন্ট করার একটা প্রসেস থাকে, বাট আমি তোমার মধ্যে দেখতে পাই তোমার পেটে আগুন জ্বলছে, and I will help you make money. That boy is now making 6 lakhs a month in revenue. You know, he has around 20, 25 employees. And even his own father, who was against him starting a startup, Bhoyet Thalai, his father is his own employee, his accountant. Wow. You know, so and he's been featured on Times of India, this and that. So many, and Bangla chile, right? So many such stories. So I don't believe in you know, stereotyping classes and stereotyping parts of India and this and that. Nah, I have seen startups coming out of the most unlikely places, and the most likely candidates with PhD and IIT degree and everything else going in their favor, not being able to make it.
So that I understand that. Amar jeta proshno chilo was more along the lines of the kind of areas that these startups focus on. In the sense,
the startups that succeed focus on their own strengths. I, as a human being, have certain skills, have certain passion. If I'm passionate about sports, I empathize with the problem of sports, right? আমি বুঝতে পারি যে এদের কি প্রবলেম আছে যেটার জন্য এরা পে করবে, ভার্সাস কি প্রবলেম আছে যেটার জন্য ওরা ফেসবুকে লিখবে কিন্তু কোনোদিন পে করবে না, right? So when I'm part of that market and I empathize with their problem, and I know I have certain skills to solve that problem, and I know I don't have certain skills, I get a co-founding team together to solve that problem, and I understand and I get validation from my friends who understand, who are part of this market, and I come with a solution that people are willing to pay for, that's viable enough. That is how you choose, not based on what is trending on NASCAR or government of India ki bole dilo, ki census data ki bolche. No, it's depending on who am I and what do I enjoy doing, because it's a very difficult journey to build a startup. You'll be crying, you'll be lonely, you'll be rejected, your own parents, your own best friends will reject you. যে দূর তুই তো লুজার, আমার দেখ গাড়ি হয়ে গেছে, বাড়ি হয়ে গেছে, বিয়ে হয়ে গেছে, তুই তো এখনো স্ট্রাগল করে যাচ্ছিস। দ্যাট ইজ দ্য রিয়ালিটি অফ আ স্টার্টআপ। ইন দ্যাট ফেজ, ইফ ইউ ডোন্ট লাভ হোয়াট ইউ ডু, ইউ উইল কুইট। সো ফর ইউ টু লাভ ইট, ইউ হ্যাভ ইউ প্যাশন, ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি ইট। আদার্স যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছে না, আমি যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, মাইকেল অ্যাঞ্জেলো যেমন একটা তোমার পাথরের ব্লকের মধ্যে এসে স্ট্যাচু অফ ডেভিড দেখতে পাচ্ছে, আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, he can see it and he carved the David out of that block of marble. An entrepreneur is like that. অন্যরা দেখতে পাচ্ছে না, but he can see it and he makes it out. Takes time, but it happens. That's how we decide the market. That's how we decide the solution at the problem at the market segment.
Soumik, তোর কোনো প্রশ্ন ছিল?
হ্যাঁ, আপনি ফেলিয়ার নিয়ে বললেন, আমার সেখানে একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে একটা স্ট্যাট আমি দেখেছি যে 93% অফ অল স্টার্টআপস ফেল। এবার আপনাদের নিশ্চয়ই অনেক কম্পিটিশন হয় যেখান থেকে আপনারা বেস্ট স্টার্টআপটাকে মেন্টর করা শুরু করেন। তো আপনারা কোনো একটা স্টার্টআপে এক্স্যাক্টলি কি কি দেখেন যেটা দিয়ে আপনারা এক্সট্রাপোলেট করতে পারেন যে সেই স্টার্টআপটা সাকসিড করতে পারে?
শিওর। সো প্রথমত হচ্ছে যে আমাদের ক্ষেত্রে আমরা যেটা করি, আমরা ফার্স্ট ইনকিউবেট করি, we educate them into entrepreneurship, because আমি যেটা বললাম যেখান থেকে কলকাতার মধ্যে শুরু হয়েছিল যে people don't know about business. So we educate them, incubate them, and then if they need funding, funds are provided. Most cases they don't need funding, they can build with customers' money and grow from there organically. Some need funding because just the structure of their product or solution. Now point is, when we bring in, there's no way to really tell if they will succeed or not, besides the IQ and the dynamism of the founders and ki koreche, what have they done. So a lot of times the people who succeed are the ones who are highly skilled, high energy and ethical, right? And they have done something. মানে they খালি হাতে আসে না, আমার কাছে আইডিয়া আছে আমি স্টার্টআপ করব, they bring something যে আমি করেছি, without your help I've done so much, now help me out so I can get it to the next level. Then what happens, I get to see that eke shikhano jay because they are resourceful, They have gone on YouTube, gone on Google, learned coding, learned whatever, and built something. হয়তো এবড়ো খেবড়ো, but ঠিক আছে, কিছু তো করেছে. That means with support, they will again, আমার কাছে প্রত্যেকটা জিনিসের কোয়েশ্চেন করতে আসবে না, স্যার এটা কি করে হবে, ওটা কি করে হবে, ডান দিক যাবো না বাদিক যাবো. Rather, they would figure it out on their own as they go, and they'll be guide to make sure, এই ভুল দিকে যাচ্ছ, এদিকে ঘুরে নাও, right? That is what we want. Not micromanagement, but hand holding, so that we know that they're going in the right direction. So the thing we look for is, when one of the questions, for example, that we ask is, will you continue the startup even if one of your parents die? For example, because that shows dedication, and more than the words, we see the body language. Is the conviction there or is not? Because 93% of startups fail. It's because of that they quit. But আমি যখন স্টার্টআপ করছিলাম, I was the least eligible. আমার আশেপাশে যারা ছিল আমার ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে, পিএইচডি রয়েছে, অ্যাওয়ার্ড পেয়েছে, বড় বড় আইকিউ. হ্যাঁ, কি হলো, আমাদের রিসেশন হলো 2008, ওবামা পাওয়ারে এলেন, and people were like, you invest করছে না, সব ব্যাকআপ করে জব নিয়ে নিল. Me and my co-founder were mad. We wouldn't take no for an answer. We struggled for 10 months. We were 1 month away from being homeless. And Soumik jane Chicago giro thada jayega, minus 80 degrees. So we were 1 month away from being homeless, but we didn't give up, and we got our funding, we got our thing done, and we moved. So that's the difference, right? So quit jara korte pare. So we look for mental sturdiness. So who can live through difficult situations and still continue, right? So that, and the skill level of, like I said, the energy, the skill level, the market buying power, how big the market is. That's basically it. মানে খুব বেশি তো আমরা দেখি না, ওইটুকুতে মানে the morning shows the day. So এটা দেখে now it's on us to give them the right resources, and with that, if they're able to grow, then of course when they need money is available.
কোনো পার্টিকুলার সেক্টর আছে কি যেখানে কোনো একটা স্টার্টআপ তৈরি হলে তার সাকসিড করার চান্স বেশি, ধরুন ইন্ডিয়াতে বা বাংলাদেশে?
Tech is always that, because tech is very much scalability করতে গেলে, without tech you cannot do any business. So we make sure ki it's not like somebody's doing Madhubani painting and trying to sell it on Amazon. That's not what we call a startup, and that's not what we generally incubate. We focus on those who have some kind of tech enabledness. Doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it, but they're using tech to enable their, even as a restaurant, that there's enough tech to scale. If there is no scalability, there is no return on investment. It doesn't make sense.
টেকের মধ্যেও কি কোনো স্পেসিফিক সেক্টর আছে? ফর এক্সাম্পল মেশিন লার্নিং স্টার্টআপ শুনেছি এখন খুবই হট,
সব জায়গায় করতে হবে. See, machine learning and artificial intelligence is not something that is like you cannot, like আগে বলা তো টেক স্টার্টআপ, এখন স্টার্টআপ মানে সেখানে টেক ইনভলভড. ঠিক সেরকম যেটা টেক স্টার্টআপ, সেটার মধ্যে এআই এন্ড এমএল যদি না থাকে, then you're basically 10 years behind. So it's almost a given that ML and AI will be there, right? Intelligence has to be there within the product. Now loke use korben, loke eto used to hoye geche YouTube recommendation engine ba Zomato recommendation engine, everything is so intel. Even your car has more CPUs than your first computer, right? So people are used to intelligence. So intelligence has to be built into the system. That is just a given.
So I'll just
but I'll tell you ki because of corona, sorry Srinjoy, because of corona, health tech, things to do with astrology, insurance, যেগুলো লোকে ভয় পেলে যে জায়গাগুলোতে যায়, সেই জিনিসগুলো are more thriving, right? Also because people are very desperate, ki eka lockdown হয়ে আছে. So one of our startups, it's just a funny thing, they do hourly booking of hotels, right? So 3 ঘন্টা 6 ঘন্টা 9 ঘন্টা. So ওদের মার্চ থেকে আগের বছর জুলাই না আগস্ট অব্দি বন্ধ ছিল, and all the money they had lost, they made up in October, November. 2 মাসে ওদের হয়ে গেছে, because people were going wild at hourly booking hotels, for what reason, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
So that is also kind of on the hot side. Mental health, if I may say it politely, is on the rise. Anything to do with that, if you want to know about the industry. Yeah, sorry.
I'll use typical startup jingo here. So if I have to double click, I'll take 3 startups from your site jara featured apnader site, Nearify, ISKCON and Digijams. So if you want, you can probably take any one example and jodi apni to bistare bolen about what worked, why it worked, etc. If you could take us through the journey, so we understand what the journey is like. I think real examples help drive home the point better.
Sure.
Anyone?
So Nearify, for example, was started by 3 Kanpur IIT guys who later on went to MIT and others. Very, very qualified people.
Yeah.
And then we took over the company because they were good techies, but disagreements with the investors and whatnot. I'm not getting in the details, but
Yeah, sure.
so the company was taken over, and it was supposed to be event discovery platform. So where it kind of scrapes event data from multiple websites and then brings it to the platform. So when you look, just like Zomato shows you the local restaurants, it shows you what's happening nearby you. So you can be in London and you can see, okay, in my 10-mile radius, what's happening, right? So that became a very popular product, and we didn't know what was happening because without marketing, it got like 300,000 downloads and going up. And then suddenly, we Googled and found out we were featured on 3 US magazines. 17, which is a very popular teenage magazine. Other one was Cosmopolitan, which is very popular amongst women. Arekta mone porche na, some other magazine. And all of them featured us for friend finding, dating. Right? And I was like, what's going on? And then we looked more at the Google Analytics and found out that people are coming on board. And when they see who's going to the event, they try to chat with them and they try to go together to the event. Yeah. And in the process, becoming friends and finding commonality, because Tinder ki hoy, it's more about if you have good looks, then you get it. If you're not good looking, you don't get it. It's all about this. But ekhane ki hocche, they're finding something common. Acha tumi jazz festival e jaccho, mane tomar jazz pochondo. Oh, I also like jazz. That's a common point, and based on that, there is liking and conversation and chatting that's starting. So that was like kind of like, wow, acha, eta to jantam na. And then we started moving in that direction. And VC funding to onek hoche. So that was that. Therefore, SASCAN was purely, there's this wonderful scientist. He came up with a way of basically identifying mouth cancer. But the product that is majorly used in India is like kind of a thing. So he got patent. We met in Kerala. We connected and he got funded, and his products are now being used by lots of non-profits and other places. There are rural jagah portable mouth scanning for cancer and all that. So that's that. Arekta konta bollo tumi? DigiChamps. DigiChamps was the company. It was in Orissa. So they were basically Byju's, as Byju's was not so popular at the time. So they were just coming up with content with all the animations. Kind of, you can say almost like Byju's. The only difference was they were more on a B2B model, but they were going like school by school. So Kendra Vidyalaya, Dushakhana school, later Army Dushakhana school, and they were growing, and eventually they got partially bought out by the government of Telangana, I believe.
Right.
Content and everything.
Right. Soumik, তো কোনো কোশ্চেন ছিল?
হ্যাঁ, তো আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে আপনি বললেন যে কিরকম স্টার্টআপ শাইন করতে পারে বা কি কি সেক্টরে কাজ হচ্ছে, যেমন বললেন যে এআই বা মেশিন লার্নিং এখন প্রায় সব জায়গাতেই দেখা যায়। আমার সেই সাথে একটা অ্যালাইড প্রশ্ন ছিল যে কোয়ান্টাম কম্পিউটিং নিয়ে বাইরে প্রচুর স্টার্টআপ শুরু হয়ে গেছে, যেমন ধরুন ডিওয়েভ থেকে শুরু করে আয়নকিউ থেকে শুরু করে প্রচুর ফান্ডিং পাচ্ছে।
আমি এখনো দেখিনি ইন্ডিয়াতে।
হ্যাঁ, এবার বাংলায় বা ইন্ডিয়াতে কোয়ান্টাম কম্পিউটিং নিয়ে স্টার্টআপের ভবিষ্যৎ কি, আর কেন এখনো হয়নি, বা হলে সেটা শাইন করার কতটা পোটেনশিয়াল আছে বলে আপনার মনে হয়?
সো ফার্স্ট অফ অল, আমাদের একটু কপিক্যাট মেন্টালিটি আছে। আমরা অন্যদের দেখে ইন্সপায়ার্ড হয়ে সেটা করি। এন্ড আমাদের ইউনিভার্সিটিতেও কিছু রিসোর্সেরও ব্যাপার থাকে। কটা ইউনিভার্সিটি আমরা বলতে পারবো যে যারা রিসার্চ করতে পারবে কোয়ান্টাম কম্পিউটিং এর ওপর, রাইট? সো দ্যাট ইজ, আই থিঙ্ক, দ্য ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার ইজ দ্য ইস্যু. And I think as 5G technology comes and we realize what is possible with quantum computing, we will probably be there a little later, right? Whatever is there, people are just... I should probably pause and back off. Let me just say one thing. There is a wonderful thing that's happening, which has its side effects also. So আমি যখন প্রথম কলকাতায় আসি, আমি টিভি চ্যানেলে ঘুরতাম, গিয়ে বলতাম ওদেরকে আমি স্টার্টআপ নিয়ে একটা টিভি শো করতে চাই। এন্ড মেনি অফ দেম সেড, স্যার আপনি 50 লাখ টাকা দেবেন, আপনাকে এপিসোড দিয়ে দেবো, কিন্তু কেউ দেখবে না, বিকজ হাউসওয়াইফরাই দেখে, আর যেটা চলে সেটা হচ্ছে পলিটিক্স আর ক্রিকেট আর মুভিজ। আপনার স্টার্টআপের আপনি করবেন, আপনি কিন্তু কেউ দেখবে না। আমি বললাম না, একদিন হবে লোকে স্টার্ট আপ জিনিসটাকে গ্ল্যামারাস হিসেবে দেখবে, সেটাও পলিটিক্স এর মতন বা ক্রিকেটের মতন গ্ল্যামারাস হবে। সেটা এখন হয়েছে, প্রতিটা বলিউড মুভি বলো, প্রতিটা জায়গাতে কিন্তু স্টার্ট আপ নিয়ে লোকে করে। ইটস বাট সেটা করতে গিয়ে কি হয়ে গেছে, এটা বিকাম স্ট্যাটাস সিম্বল। সো ইটস লট অফ entrepreneurs than entrepreneurs. তো সেটা করতে গিয়ে কি হয়, ইটস মোর ইম্পর্টেন্ট টু সে অন লিঙ্কডইন অর ফেসবুক আর ইনস্টাগ্রাম আমি স্টার্ট আপ করছি, ভার্সেস অ্যাকচুয়ালি ডুইং দ্য স্টার্ট আপ। So as a result, you don't see too many serious deep tech innovative products. It's not much there. কিছু কিছু আছে, আইআইটি মাদ্রাস মানে কিছু জায়গায় হচ্ছে, বাট अगेन ওগুলো একাডেমিক এতেই আটকে যাচ্ছে। ছেলেপেলেরা মানে দে আর ভেরি ইন্টেলিজেন্ট বাট দে আর নট বিজনেস ওরিয়েন্টেড, and they have no respect for business also, sometimes out of arrogance, just because they have big brains. And it's like the technology should play itself. Why should I have to do marketing? Why should I need operations? Why do I need anybody from any other domain? I'm enough, right? Google to already, Facebook to already abe kedo korbo, right? But that's not how it works. But the point is, যাদের কাছে ট্যালেন্ট আছে তারা একটু অ্যারোগেন্ট, আটকে যাচ্ছে, হেল্প চায় না। আর যাদের কাছে নেই তারা কপি করছে, right? So it's an immature, still, even at the unicorns that we're creating and all of that, still we are at an immature level. তো তুমি এটা বলছো কোয়ান্টাম কম্পিউটিং বা ওই লেভেলে, আমি এখনো পর্যন্ত সেরকম দেখিনি। আর যারা বলে তারা মানে গুগল সার্চ করে একটা পাওয়ার পয়েন্ট পিচ ডেক বানিয়ে, জাস্ট ফর ওয়েডিং কম্পিটিশনস দে ডু ইট, একটু খোঁচা মারলেই ওটা বেরিয়ে যায়। এবার এআই এমএলও, when you ask them ডেটা সেট কোত্থেকে আসবে, গুগলের কাছে তো এত বিলিয়ন্স অফ ইউজার্স এর ডেটা আছে, তোমার কাছে তুমি যে এআইটা করবে, এআইটা ও শিখবে কোত্থেকে? হয়ে যাবে স্যার। That's still that. So টেকনোলজিতে অত ডেপথ নেই, বাট হ্যাঁ, টাকা বানাতে গেলে অত ডেপথ অনেক লাগেও না। বাট ইটস বেসিক্যালি ইউএস আগে করবে, চায়না তারপর করবে, তারপর আমরা করবো, এইভাবেই জিনিসটা হয়।
আপনি একটা হ্যাঁ বলো শুনেন।
তো এখানে আমার ইমিডিয়েট প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে, ইজ দিস বিকজ আমরা অনেকটা বিহাইন্ড দ্য কার্ভ ইন টার্মস অফ ইন্ডাস্ট্রি অ্যাকাডেমিয়া টাই আপস? ডাজ দ্যাট explain why we are behind the curve in deep tech, etc.? Because America or even Europe, any big university would have 5-6 startups roundabouts within a kilometer radius of the college campus. যেটা ইন্ডিয়া ক্ষেত্রে আমরা কম দেখি, বেঙ্গলে তো প্রায় নেই, apart from say IIM Calcutta had an innovation park starting up around about 2015-16, আর IIT খড়গপুরে হয়তো এখন আছে।
খুব ইন্ডিয়াতে একটা খুব অ্যাডভান্স যেটা আমি দেখেছি, যে প্রফেসররা বা যারা মানে কাটিং এজ রিসার্চার এই মানে টপ টেকনোলজি গুলোতে, তারা এই স্টার্টআপ বা ইন্ডাস্ট্রি কালচারটা অতটা ভালো চোখে নেয় না। বাইরে বাইরে আমরা দেখি যে বড় বড় স্টার্টআপ গুলো হয়েছে, যেমন আয়ন কিউ থেকে শুরু করে বা বাকি জিনিসপত্রগুলো, সেখানে প্রফেসররা ডাইরেক্টলি ইনভলভ। তো এই কালচারটা কেন নেই ইন্ডিয়াতে, প্রফেসর বা টপ?
বিকজ আমাদের দেশে যারা কোথাও পায় না কিছু, তারা প্রফেসর হয় in most cases. People who couldn't make it in the industry or are too scared to get out, তো পড়াশোনা করছে তো করছে, পিএইচডি হলো, তার পোস্ট ডক হলো, তারপর ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে গেল, তার প্রফেসর হয়ে গেল। Now they have never had exposure to industry and it's scary to them, right? So they like to be in the shade of academia, nothing wrong with that. But the point is, when you have professors like that, how can you expect a vision that is beyond anything that is academic? So unfortunately, that is the case. Now, secondly, studentরা বেশিরভাগই যারা পড়াশোনা করছে কলেজে, কি যে হচ্ছে কেউ জানে না। If you ask anybody এই কোর্সটা কি শিখলে, পরীক্ষা পাস করার জন্য দাদাদের থেকে পেছনের বছরের এক্সামস নিয়ে পাসটা করে গেছে, রেজাল্ট পেয়ে গেছে, কিন্তু কি যে শিখলো কিছুই। And it's not me saying, the CEO of Infosys, I think, made a statement like that. 70% of Indian engineers are not worth hiring. There are more engineering schools than we need engineers. সবাই ইঞ্জিনিয়ার। মানে আমার মনে আছে একটা ছেলেকে আমি এমবিএ ওকে হায়ার করেছিলাম, ও এসে বলছে আমি এক্সেল কি করে ইউজ করবো, কোনোদিন তো আমি এক্সেল ওয়ার্ড ইউজ করিনি। বললাম ভাই তুমি এমবিএ করলে কোত্থেকে? তারপর শুনলাম এমবিএ নামটা, মানে আমি কোনোদিন গুগল করে দেখলাম, some place that is not even. So the point is, that's what the state of our academic system. Even the best of the IITs, it's okay. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not as good as you would expect something in a US or a UK, right? But if you see IIT's ranks, is it really at the top 10? I don't think any of the IITs are in the top 10 or top 25 even. So the point is, our best is also not in the top category in the world, top tier in the world. Unfortunately, that is the problem, and the professors are accordingly. But it's changing. It's changing massively. Government of India has enforced e-cell থাকতেই হবে. Atal incubation centers are popping up, যেখানে 10 কোটি টাকা করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে প্রতিটা Atal incubation center এ, স্টুডেন্টকে 15,000 টাকা দেওয়া হচ্ছে at least for 12 months, so they can build their startup after graduation and they can have some small salary with which they can survive and build. So that is there, support is there. I mean, নিজে startup India তে judge করি, and I see, tier 2 tier 3 থেকে এই স্টার্টআপ গুলো পসিবল হতো না যদি গভর্নমেন্টের হেল্প না থাকতো, যদি ই-সেল না থাকতো, যদি ইউনিভার্সিটি হেল্প না থাকতো। সো আমি কারোকে ছোট করছি না, ডোন্ট গেট মি রং, বাট স্টিল উই আর এট আ ইম্যাচিউর স্টেজ। মানে আমরা যা করছি, দিস ইজ অ্যামেজিং টু বি অনেস্ট, রাইট? ইটস গ্রেট। এই কালচারটাই ছিল না 10 বছর আগে, বাট কালচারটা এসছে। এবার স্কিল আসতে হবে। এই যে নতুন এডুকেশন পলিসিটা করছে, সেটার মাধ্যমে স্কিল আসবে। Once a skill is there, aligned with the industry, aligned with your profession, then you will see the real stuff happen. It was much needed. And that new education policy makes me very hopeful. The next 20 years, India will see some massive, তুমি এটা চাইছো, Soumik, that will happen.
Right. So now that you mention Atal incubation centers, next প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে গিয়ে আপনার এই দুটো ভেঞ্চার বা স্টিন্ট নিয়ে আমি জানতে চাই। একটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে your role as an advisor to the government of Nepal for startups. The other is your role in proliferating Atal incubation centers throughout India. If you could just explain these briefly.
These come by invitation. See, Kolkata Ventures এর যা success stories হয়, right? Based on that, we get called by the government. So যখন নাকি Prime Minister Oli elected হলেন 2018, হ্যাঁ, তো তখন সেই দিনকে actually the day the government was formed, I was there, and this was the former Prime Minister, and he and I were talking যে কি স্টার্টআপস নিয়ে কি হচ্ছে ইন্ডিয়াতে, নেপালে কি করা যায়। আমি তখন বললাম যে দেখুন, সিলিকন ভ্যালিতে যে অপরচুনিটি আছে এখানেও করতে পারবেন, বিকজ as long as it's the cloud and you have a laptop and internet connection, it doesn't matter কি country infrastructure কি. And we were talking about that next month, this Prime Minister, we were sent by our Prime Minister to Nepal. So Ritesh from Oyo, Entrepreneur Magazine, Sugar Cosmetics Koshik. So 5 of us were there. And I said the same thing to the current Prime Minister. And he was impressed. He was like, আমাদের যে রাস্তা নেই, আমাদের এই প্রবলেম, ওই প্রবলেম, সেই প্রবলেম, এয়ারপোর্ট নেই, তাই ওই। Nothing is a problem as long as you empower them with skill. And digitally speaking, they can be present anywhere in the world and do the same thing. Why Nepal? They can be on a beach, they can be anywhere, right? And so we built that ecosystem, but very quickly demonetization happened. Oli got very upset because ওখানকার যে টাকা যারা, মানে they used to allow Indian currency there. And unfortunately, a lot of the money was wasted because they couldn't convert in time. And so they were like, and China was keeping, pushing from their side. So then he kind of moved towards China. And so everything stopped from our side, and Nepal has been more China, of course, communist. And China was more of they're aligned with that philosophy. So since then, it has not been much of a touch with Nepal. But for a year, we did enough work. Multi-million-dollar startups have started, like Tootle. My friend Sikshit, he started. It's a copy of Uber for bikes, because ওদের ওখানে গাড়ি, ওদের ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং হয় না, আর গাড়ি যদি তুমি কিনতে চাও ইন্ডিয়া থেকে বা যেখানে থেকে, 300% ট্যাক্স। তো বেশিরভাগ লোকই বাইক আর স্কুটারে চলে। So this guy did a Uber for scooters, and it was massively successful. Government cracked down on them ki 100 বছরে কি একটা law যেন এ করছে। He went on the media, and the Prime Minister changed the law. And now, it's become even more successful. So like that, there are 5 or 6 startups that are making millions. For Nepal economy, that's a lot of money when you make millions in Nepal, right? So they're doing well. But we are not in touch, unfortunately.
Okay. Soumik?
আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে আপনার স্পিরিচুয়াল জার্নিটা নিয়ে যদি বলতেন কিছু। তো আমি জানি যে আপনি ইসকনের খুব বড় ডিভোটি। তার সাথে সাথে আপনার প্রত্যেকটা ওয়েবসাইটে বা প্রত্যেকটা প্রোফাইলে লেখা যে আপনি ভগবদ গীতা থেকে ম্যানেজমেন্টের কিছু লেসন ড্র করেন এবং সেগুলো টিচ করেন। সেগুলো নিয়ে যদি বলতেন কিছু।
Sure. So basically, আমি IIT তে পড়ছিলাম, IIT মানে ইলিনয় ইনস্টিটিউট অফ টেকনোলজি। পড়তে তখন আমি ওখানে লোকাল ISKCON connected হই. We were having college programs on campus, and I always wanted to know about spirituality, and I never got a logical answer. সবসময় wishy-washy answer পেতাম, যে তুমি ছোট, তুমি কি করে জানবে, বা if I asked a hard question, I would always get slapped back, right? But here I found a mentor who was able to give me answers like that, and I'm like, how do you know? He's like, I don't know, it's in the Gita, everything is clear, just open it and read it. And like, সত্যি মানে এরকম ভাবে এত ক্ল্যারিটি দেওয়া আছে? বলে হ্যাঁ, ক্ল্যারিটি দেওয়া আছে. And I started reading it and understanding. Wow, this is mind blowing. And then my parents got separated, and I was left in tremendous financial crisis. And you guys know how expensive it is to study in the US. Our second year shuru hote hi mane I had no money. Now that time all I had was Bhagavad Gita to depend on, and my mentor's words, and I had to figure out my own tuition, as well as I knew I was not going to not get a job. I was doing my startup also. Already my startup had started. So I had to build my startup, raise funding for it, immigration, all this, everything was anti me. I was minus $37,000 in debt, right? I had to figure it out as a 19-year-old kid. My 4 years in college, of the 3 years, I didn't buy a single clothes. I didn't go students are jeta kore, party te jay, khete jay. I had no money for anything. All I could do was start it. So that was actually a blessing. And my Bhagavad Gita was the inspiration that kind of helped me persevere through. So I promised to myself, Jodi, if I become successful, I will help my next generation with what has helped me, build myself. So, and Bhagavad Gita is my foundation. It's not what inspires me, but it is what I do. Every action, everything is inspired by the principles given in the Gita. If you want more details, you can ask me.
So one very interesting question was, I'm completely a noob with regard to this. Kintu, how do you tie up capitalism with the teachings of the Gita? That's one very basic question.
Very connected, very connected. So if you look at our history, right, Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc., all the great devotees, if I may say so, are all kings. They were extremely wealthy, not just wealthy, they were Chakravarti Samrat. So India was not just India. India was all the way Indonesia, Burma, oidike Afghanistan. Gandhari was from Kandahar, Afghanistan. Right? So it was like India was very vast, almost till Greece. And these were kings who were ruling practically more than half the planet. And they were the best of the devotees, who were like Raja Rishi, right? They were supremely powerful, supremely rich, yet they were lived like rishis, extremely detached, renounced, and that's how you manage power, because power can very easily destroy you. I've seen in my family also, I've seen people very closely, coming, very good intention, comes to power, gets, distracted, and something, goes in a different direction. But when you are in that mode of Raja Rishi, you can handle money, handle power for the benefit of other people, right? So that's where capitalism actually works. If you see most CEOs, they might be shrewd when it comes to making business decisions, but they're very good, very just amongst the people they work with. Cano? Because if you're not easy to work with, people will not work with you. And without people, you don't have a company. Without people, you don't have organization, right? So you have to be likable. You have to be fair. You have to be honest, right? If you're dishonest, Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky's সঙ্গে শুয়েছে, সেটা problem ছিল না. Problem ছিল is he lied, right? And that's 200 years of capitalism speaking. Because ethics is a very strong part of capitalism. So if you're a man or woman of character, you can survive capitalism, or else you cannot, right? So Bhagavad Gita actually teaches you the character part. It also talks about who does what, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, right? Jeta amra boli caste system. It is not by birth. It is by psychophysical nature. Everybody is, I'm born in a Brahmin family, but I don't wear a sacred thread. Amar poite nei. Keno? Because by psychophysical nature, I'm a Vaishya, Kshatriya mixture. A leader and as well as business acumen. That's who I am. That's where I thrive. That's where
karma. It's essentially karma.
Yeah, it's my karma that has made me this. So by birth, I will not say I'm a Brahmana. I mean, because my father is a Brahmana doesn't mean my nature, my work is not that. So I identify with my work, right? And that's what Krishna is saying. Chatur varnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasa. Right? Chatur varnam, চারটি বর্ণ আমি বানিয়েছি, মায়া সৃষ্টম, আমি সৃষ্টি করেছি, বেসড অন গুণা এন্ড কর্ম। গুণা মানে তোমার কোয়ালিটিস এবং তোমার অ্যাক্টিভিটিস। আমার যদি খুব ইন্টেলেকচুয়াল আমি পিএইচডি করছি, দেন আই এম আ ব্রাহ্মণ কোয়ালিটি। Accordingly, I will do research, teaching, professory, etc. If I am more money-minded and I can figure out I'm street smart, I will be a banya, I'll do business, right? Vaishya. So based on that, I'll find job satisfaction. And thereby, when I'm happy, I will give my 100% and I'll feel happiness in my work, happiness in my life, work-life balance, right? It all makes sense. When you understand the Bhagavad Gita, you're happy from all angles. It's a wholesome understanding of things. So money, if you understand this, Krishna's wife is Lakshmi, right? Vishnu Lakshmi, right? Lakshmi represents money. And wherever Krishna goes, Lakshmi follows. It's not the other way around. When you worship Lakshmi only, she's a chaste wife. She's like, don't call me alone. If you have my husband, I'll come. So when you worship Krishna, she is always there, right? The point is, you don't. So Ravan mentality ki, I don't want Ram. I want Sita. I want his wife. That's the materialistic tendency. Finders keepers. Kyo dekhche na, eta amar.
Shorn of ethics.
There's no ethics. It's all sense gratification, selfish sense gratification. আচ্ছা ওর অত মাথায় বুদ্ধি না, ওকে এক্সপ্লয়েট করি, ওকে দেবো না, রাইট? ওর মাথায় বুদ্ধি আছে, ওকে ভয় পেয়ে চলতে হবে, সু করে দেবে আমাকে, right? But when you are from Bhagavad Gita standpoint, you're fair to all, you're equal to all, and that pays back, because not just karmically it pays back, also people are watching you as a leader and they see how you are you really ethical when others are not watching? And based on that, you earn respect and reputation over a long period of time, right? And the reputation is, when somebody says bad thing about you, you don't have to say a word. Loki bolbe na, I don't bolbe na. I know this man. I have seen this person, right? So all of this turns back to capitalism. To thrive in capitalism, you need to be ethical. You need to be highly skilled. You need to be motivated, high energy. What we look for in founders. That's only possible when you are a man or woman of character. And you're purpose driven. It's another thing about Bhagavad Gita, is very purpose driven. Arjuna bola lokho bhed. That's not just in that exercise. Throughout, even the war, it's very purpose driven. Krishna is giving him a purpose to fight this war. He doesn't want to fight this war. He's like, আমি চলে যাচ্ছি, আমি ভিক্ষে করে খাবো হিমালয়তে গিয়ে। কৃষ্ণ বলছে না, this is your duty.
ধর্ম।
এটা তোমার ধর্ম, এটা ধর্মযুদ্ধ, right? If you don't do it, these people, they have done adharma. They have tried to strip your wife naked, right? And they will take over, right? Era jodi prithibir upor niye na, that will be adharma. And you as a kshatriya means one who protects from harm. It's your duty to make sure they can be annihilated, right? And that's how so there's a lot to it. Of course, it's 700 verses. I'll just give you a little glimpse, movie trailer.
আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল, তো আপনার এই যে বিভিন্ন জিনিস যেগুলো আপনাকে ইন্সপায়ার করে, সেই টপিকে যেহেতু আমরা আছি, আমার একটা জানতে খুব ইন্টারেস্ট ছিল যে আপনার গ্রেট গ্র্যান্ডমাদার সরোজিনী নাইডু, তো তার লেগেসি আপনাকে কতটা ইনফ্লুয়েন্স বা ইন্সপায়ার করেছে, এবং আপনাদের ফ্যামিলির যে লম্বা পলিটিক্যাল লিনিয়েজ, সেটা নিয়ে যদি কিছু বলতেন। এবং সেটা
obviously Sarojini Naidu, I have not seen her. আমি কখনো তাকে দেখিনি, I was born much later after her death,
obviously.
But what I've heard from my grandmother is that she married out of caste, out of state, love marriage, actually bochor age bhabo love marriage, right? And she did what she wanted to do, bideshe porashona kore India te eshe, and she was always surrounded by men. Women in politics was very rare, and she was like close to Gandhi and this and that, and she never cared loke ki bolbe. And the funny thing is, our family actually rejected her. Mane Bengali, whatever her family was there, they would be embarrassed to say we're connected to Sarojini Naidu. In fact, till my grandmother was alive, I never spoke about it publicly. Only after 2015, after she passed away, I started being more, open about it, because we were not even allowed to talk about her. So to me, that was like, how is this possible? I mean, ICSC the Porchi, Sarojini Naidu poetry, I'm related to her, and we're embarrassed of her. How does it make sense? And then I realized love marriage and, a woman having her own freedom was looked down upon. And মানে characterless, এসব হাওয়া হতো আগেকার দিনে, and that was what she went through, and it was inspiring to me actually, that how hard must have been for her to be successful. And the thing is, she was so amazing. মানে her poetry and everything is taught in Calcutta University English. আমি শুনেছি, আমি জানি না, ইংলিশে এই মেথে নাকি পড়ানো হয় ওনার লেখা, right? And she was struggling 100 years ago, before women's liberation, before even women were allowed to vote in America. She was a governor in an Indian state. The point is, she has had tremendous influence silently in my life. And later on, seeing my mother, giving political speeches and, growing up, I was a very introvert kid. আমি তো ড্রাইভারের সঙ্গে কথা বলতে পারতাম না, but for me, seeing that was very inspiring. And আমাদের বাড়িতে সারাক্ষণ পলিটিক্যাল ছেলেরা আসতো, মানে ক্যাব ড্রাইভার থেকে মিনিস্টার অব্দি সবাই আসতো। And as an introvert, I would not talk, but I would observe. ওখান থেকে আমি পিপল স্কিলস পেয়েছি। আমি সারাক্ষণ লোককে ওপর থেকে নিচে অব্দি আমি দেখতাম যে কিভাবে রিয়াক্ট করে, কিভাবে জোকস করে, মায়ের সামনে কিরকম বিহেভ করে, মায়ের পেছনে কিরকম বিহেভ করে, right? And I was learning people, and I do that even now at the airport when I sit there. I am learning people. It's a very interesting hobby I have. So as a kid, what happened subconsciously, I was absorbing so much. When I came to US, life is speech দেবো কোনোদিন ভাবিনি। আমার এক বড় দাদা, Brandon Lloyd, he nominated me for a position, and he said, "Avelo, jao speech dao." And I still remember, I could hear my heartbeat, মানে গলাটা ঢুক 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 করছিল, আমি ঘামছি, and I gave something, people clapped, I won. আমি কি হলো বুঝলাম না। And thereafter, one after another, I was pushed to speak. And then I realized ছোট থেকে যেগুলো দেখেছি, that has influenced me. It was all inside. Under pressure, it's coming out. And then আমার স্টার্টআপের জন্য আমাকে pitch করতে হয়. We got rejected by 300 venture capitalists. And I was just getting better and better and better. And finally, my first TED Talk happened in 2013 or 2014. And সেখানে দেখলাম, I wish I had a website, and I wish, people were like, I wish we knew more about you, right? And I was like, Acha, I should do this. And then I started building this personal brand and all, but all of that was rooted from the fact that, মানে অনেকেই বলে যে আপনি 19 বছর বয়সে শুরু করেছেন, আমিও করব। মানে I get teenagers writing to me, and I tell them কি internship করো, একটু শিখে নাও ব্যবসায় কি আছে, because I come from a background where I have seen society-তে কোথায় প্রবলেম, কোথায় কিভাবে লোকের সঙ্গে কাজ করতে হয়, কিভাবে কমিউনিকেট করলে কে বোঝে, কাকে চেঁচাতে হয়, কার সঙ্গে ভালো ব্যবহার করলে কাজ বেরোয়, right? These are things that I watched growing up, and this is not something people have. And for that, you need to have some experience of working together, being in an organization, and that helps, right? So anyway, so that has had a tremendous impact on me. I will say it made me much more mature than an 18, 19-year-old would otherwise be.
In fact, there's an interesting strand here. Apnar legacy te jerokom Sarojini Naidu ache, I'm guessing you come from the Chattopadhyay lineage. So you have a thespian like Horindra Chattopadhyay, you have Virendra Chattopadhyay, and you have a hardcore card-carrying communist like Agnes Pedley also related to you, right? Very, very diverse influences.
True that.
Right. So, coming back to Kolkata
So that has
Ventures,
helped. So when I have been out of the ordinary, it has never been a problem. Because আমাদের ফ্যামিলিতে এটা লিনিয়েজই আছে যে সবাই একটু eccentric.
and
out
very
of the-
Catholic. Very, very Catholic. মানে একসাথে Sarojini Naidu, who was center to conservative, with Agnes Medley, who is absolutely on the opposite side of the spectrum. It's amazing diversity, right? So coming back to Kolkata Ventures, I wanted to understand one thing, getting a bit technical here. Apnader USP key, is it essentially seed funding come incubation and readying the firm for series of funding?
আমাদের basic thing, I'll tell you, is entrepreneurs, millennial entrepreneurs helping budding entrepreneurs. It's that simple. Generally speaking, এটা হয় হচ্ছে যেখানেই মেন্টর দেখবে তারা হচ্ছে either consultant বা কোথাও চাকরি করছে বা কোনো জ্ঞানী কোথাও প্রফেসর পিএইচডি একগাদা বইটা লিখেছে। এই ক্ষেত্রে হচ্ছে আমরা ওই পুঁথিগত বিদ্যাতে যাই না। Our USP is entrepreneurs helping young entrepreneurs. That's it. There are people who have gone through 0 to million, have struggled through the path, know where the shortcuts are, know where the shortfalls are, and based on that, they tell the next generation, এখানে যাও, এখানে যেও না, এটা আমি করেছি, তুমি এভাবে ভাবতে পারো।
So, where do you actually deploy capital, if at all do you deploy capital?
Based on what aligns with me. I personally am big into media, tomorrow's technology, right? So that's where I understand. I'm a futurist. I know, okay, Modi এই policy করলো মানে 3 বছর পর এই জিনিস হবে, স্টক মার্কেট ওই দিকে যাবে, এরকম প্রোডাক্টস বেরোবে, এই প্রবলেমস হবে। এবার তারা সেই প্রবলেমগুলো যারা সলভ করছে, ধরো সাইবার সিকিউরিটি, identity theft, right, etc., etc. Okay, these are problems that are going to be big, and there's a lot of money to be made, and I have the right connections for it, so it makes sense for me to invest because I know I can help them grow massively. right?
So it's essentially seed funding, or
Seed funding, 25 lakhs to 1 crore.
Essentially seed funding, and you probably help them get to a Series A stage with the ultimate objective being an IPO.
IPO might not be the ultimate objective. Again, I don't think like that. Ultimate objective is get exit, whether it's 20x or 60x or whatever it is. Exit পেতে হবে, সেটা কিভাবে হবে, that is IPO or somebody buys me out. I don't care.
Fair enough. So coming to the current situation, আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি 2020 থেকে the Fed has been completely bombarding the world with liquidities. I work in the stock market, so I know world over, all your pension funds have so much money, they don't know where to put it, where to place it. So they are just investing, say 1% of the allocation in an emerging market like India, and only 1% is huge for us. And that's why that explains to a large extent why you see Nifty going to this level, and there's this disconnect, right, between the real economy and where the stock market is. And আমরা Zomato IPO দেখেছি, which is a very recent phenomenon, and that was crazy, right? It started at 70. You had real world investors like, say, even a Rakesh Jhunjhunwala saying that he would not touch it with a barge pole. and it just skyrocketed. I think yesterday was the first correction, but that's also a miniature correction after that. এখন এরকম সিচুয়েশনে কি নতুন স্টার্টআপ এন্টারপ্রেনারদের জন্য ইনসেন্টিভ গুলো একটু পারভার্স হয়ে যাচ্ছে? বিকজ ইউ হ্যাভ সো মাচ অফ চিপ ক্যাপিটাল, you get a lot of good people who will have that conviction to take risk, given that they know that they are more likely to get rewarded with risk capital. But you might have a lot of staff also coming in just because they think of this as some sort of a Ponzi scheme. What are your thoughts on this?
That is always there. সবসময় ছিল, সবসময় থাকবে. It's not just now. The economy has a way of correcting itself. Evolution, just like evolution, it works on its own, survival of the fittest. So some people might get quickly rich and then quickly they fall, right? And those who are in the long haul will play the long game, and they'll screw up in the short term, and they'll make their way through and go through. Dynamism of the entrepreneur. We focus on the founder যদি ভালো হয়, these things don't matter. Cheap capital কি not, situation will always change. But what matters is তোমার গোলটা কোথায়. Are you really passionate about solving the problem? Is it a larger than life problem that you are passionate about? If that is the case, you will not give up on anything. I'll figure out a way to make it happen, because this is something that is a part of your being, right? And when that is the case, right, human beings innately have the nature to figure out. So yeah, cheap capital is there. There are a lot of people trying to make black money white through startups. And so আমাদের এখানে খুব strong due diligence থাকে. আমি ওরকম দেখলে আমি একদম সিংহের মতন ঝাঁপিয়ে পড়ি। মানে somebody was like cryptocurrency রাশিয়া থেকে ইনভেস্ট করছিল, ভাই প্লিজ বলে আমায় দেখো না, আই এম নট ইনভলভড। তো মানে ওখানে কিছু গন্ডগোল আছে, অলমোস্ট ইটস a given. So I have a good eye for it. I have been cheated a lot, so I know now how not to fall for those things. Like I have even invested in startup where they're like, "Acha sir, thank you very much for the money. I'm giving it back to my father, closing my startup." I'm like, money?
What?
Because if you look at the contracts, shareholders agreement and all in the US, it's much more lenient, where there's a lot of freedom given to the entrepreneur to play with the money and experiment and screw up, and that's okay. Nobody's. But এখানে যদি দেখো, they are more stringent. যে অডিট করা হবে, কেউ বোর্ড ওভারসিয়ার থাকবে, এইটাই হয়। আমি ভাবতে কেন এরকম করে, এটা তো মোটিভেশন চলে যাবে। entrepreneur supposed to be free. ওই করতে গিয়ে আমি যে ঠকেছি, so I have learned the hard way. So the point is, yeah, there's always those kinds of people who will do the wrong things, but thankfully investors are getting more smarter. But again, dumb money, dumb entrepreneur matches, smart money, smart entrepreneur matches. People have a way of finding the right match. Mismatch হয় ওই থেকে শিখে, it's just part of the economy. It always happens, not based on কি এখনই হচ্ছে 2020 আয় কখনো হয়নি আর পরে কখনো হবে না. It's just part of it. It's just people who are sincere and smart will make it happen.
Fair enough. Coming to a very contentious topic, the one I think you pointed out একদম এই কনভারসেশনের শুরুতে, West Bengal, our state. So you have had your skin in the game for about 5 years now, good 5 years now, and you chose to return to Calcutta, where any sort of an imagining of Indus Valley in India, as people tend to dub the startup ecosystem, it starts with Bangalore, Hyderabad, goes to Noida, comes to Powai, that's it, done. doing it in Calcutta, how has the ecosystem evolved over the past 5 years? Where do you see hope and where do you see despair? Because honestly, as a layman, the only big ticket startup that I can name top of the head from Calcutta is Raw Momos. That's something that has touched lives and people love the product. And you see this awash across different airport terminals throughout the country. So where do we lack? What are your perspectives for the future?
See, again, it's not a good idea to judge a startup ecosystem based on unicorns or brands that you can see. There's a lot of brands you cannot see. Like Matic, nobody talks about it. They're making waves in the crypto world, but nobody talks about it. They're a unicorn. Nobody talks. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. So Kolkata, yes, we don't have unicorns yet. And I don't know if that is a necessity. Like you said yourself, যে Zomato হয়েছে, আমি কোথায় পড়লাম Zomato 40 টাকায় এসে দাঁড়াবে. Right now it's 140, eventually it'll come down to 40 rupees. So what kind of unicorn is that where there's a negative PE ratio? Right? So I'd rather go for real business that stays for a long time, creates employment. Right? আমাদের আন্ডারে at least 4,500 jobs create হয়েছে, যার জন্য গভর্নমেন্ট থেকে আমায় ডাকে। কেন ডাকে? Because of job creation. Politicianরা যেটা করার কথা সেটা আমরা করছি, and that is my goal. And that is happening in Bengal, and not only Bengal, but Bhubaneswar, Patna, Guwahati, all the East India places. This is happening. Not as the ecosystem is not as ripe as Gurgaon and Bangalore. You're right, but that's a good thing. You know why? তুমি যদি একটা ব্যাঙ্গালোর একটা ভিসি কাছে অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট চাও 2 সপ্তাহ 3 সপ্তাহ লেগে যাবে, বিকজ সো মাচ রাশ। এখানে তো খালি জমি, নাও এখানে কি সিচুয়েশনটা কি ছিল কলকাতাতে হচ্ছে মারওয়ারি, there's a community, Marwari community, the Gujarati community, small Bengali entrepreneurs community, এই ছিল। আমি NASCOM-এ গেলাম, টাইতে গেলাম, দুটোতেই আমাকে বেসিক্যালি বার করে দিল। and one of the things I saw, মানে I'm happy to say it, I don't mind people hating me for it, যে বাঙালির মাথায় জুতো রেখে ব্যবসা হচ্ছে। বোর্ডে রয়েছে চাচা, ভাতিজা এসছে স্টার্টআপের জন্য, সে পেয়ে গেল ফান্ডিং জাস্ট বিকজ রিলেশন, রাইট? আর বাঙালি ছেলে সে ডিজার্ভিং, সে পাচ্ছে না কিছু। And that was the goal for Kolkata Ventures, যে বাঙালিদেরকে একটু হেল্প করা। তার মানে এই না যে আমাদের মারওয়াড়ি নেই, গুজরাটি নেই, we have all communities there, but my personal focus is কি বাঙালিদের একটু জাগাতে লাগে, একটু হ্যান্ড হোল্ডিং লাগে, and that we do a little bit more হ্যান্ড হোল্ডিং। আর বাবা মার সঙ্গে ফোন করে কথা বলতে হয় অনেক সময়, যে ছেলেকে ছাড়ুন 2 বছর, যদি না পারে ও চাকরি করবে, কিন্তু 2 বছরে MBA বেশি হয়ে যাবে, একটু ছেড়ে দেখুন। মানে this is the situation with Bengalis, right? So we are willing to do that. Having said that, last 5 years এ যা জমি চাষ করা হয়েছে সেখানে I can tell you there are lots and lots of startups, and it is no more a taboo যে বাঙালি ছেলে ব্যবসা করবে না, right? The mentality is changing, and there are people who are like আমি ওরম হতে চাই, আমি জোম্যাটোর মতন কোম্পানি করতে চাই। সো মানে আমাদের কত যে কোম্পানি আছে, পুরুলিয়া, কি বেশ নাম, রামপুরহাট, মানে নামও জানি না, একটা জায়গা আছে যেখানে নাকি ছেলে মানে 20 বছর 22 বছরের ছেলে মাসে 20 লাখ টাকা, মাসে 25 লাখ টাকা they are earning. It's mind blowing, but it's completely untapped market. স্টার্টআপদের রাশ নেই। একটা স্টার্টআপ যদি ভালো কাজ করে, যদি মেডিসিন ডেলিভারি, ফার্মেসির মতন কপি করলো, কি জোম্যাটোর মতন কপি করলো, ছেয়ে যায়, and that's okay. You don't have to be doing ultra crazy stuff. So that is the Bengal ecosystem. আমাদের স্টার্টআপ ইকোসিস্টেমটা হচ্ছে তাই, যে এখান থেকে ওখান থেকে কপি করছে, লোকে খিদে আছে, স্টার্টআপটা যদি কিছু করে, কম্পিটিশন নেই, and they are minting money. That is fantastic. I have no complaints whatsoever. এটা ভালো। এবার এদেরকে দেখে যারা ইন্সপায়ার্ড হয়, নেক্সট জেনারেশন আসবে, তারা হয়তো একটু বেশি হাইটেক করবে। মানে এখনো তাই, তুমি দেখো ব্যাঙ্গালোরে হচ্ছে বেশিরভাগ সেলস অফিস, টেক অফিস গুলো কিন্তু সেক্টর 5-এ কলকাতাতে, বিকজ চিপ। আমাদের এখানে লিভিং কস্ট চিপ, আমাদের এখানে স্যালারিও কম ব্যাঙ্গালোর থেকে। সো দে ডু দ্য ডেভেলপমেন্ট ইন ক্যালকাটা, সেলস অফিসেস ইন গুরগাঁও, ব্যাঙ্গালোর, পুনে, আদার প্লেসেস। সো দ্য ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার ইজ বিং বিল্ট। আমাদের নিউ টাউন সুন্দরভাবে তৈরি হচ্ছে, lot of infra is being put into place, and the mindset is also changing, thanks to the movies, thanks to Geo, and thanks to companies like Kolkata Ventures. I'm very proud to say it. I'm not going to hide. We have done a lot of work in terms of shifting the mindset, including Mamata Banerjee jeta korechen 30 কোটি টাকা দিয়ে Silicon Valley. If you look at the archives of Kolkata Ventures, যখন প্রথম শুরু করে 2016 তে, it said We aim to build the Silicon Valley of India in Kolkata. So I was in the core team there with Debashish Sen and other people, and we pushed for Silicon Valley, and that was made happen. And 30 crore taka from Bengal government is not a joke. But the point is, there is government, push করে করা হয়েছে, grassroots level এ ছেলেদের সঙ্গে মেয়েদের সঙ্গে mentality change করা হচ্ছে, বাবা মাদের সঙ্গে change করা হচ্ছে, work with the academics, and things have improved tremendously. And I think it's wrong to compare it with Gurgaon or Bangalore or Pune. We are different. We are Bengalis. And let us be like who we are. We are brainy people. We are lazy people. আমরা ভাত খেয়ে ঘুমোই। লজ্জার কোনো কথা নেই। ভালো করে ঘুমাই বলেই ব্রেনটা আমাদের অন্য থেকে ভালো কাজ করে। I think there's something to be proud of here. And because of that, we are the intellectuals. আমরা অন্যদের দিয়ে কাজ করাই। আমি যদি সিইও হয়ে বসে, একটা বাঙালি সিইওর নেচার হবে, he will not be the one coding. He will get the team together. সবাইকে বলে এটা কর ওটা কর, আমি স্ট্র্যাটেজিটা করে দিচ্ছি। And that is okay. That is also a way of management, and that's wonderful. So we should not compare ourselves with others. We should thrive in our own way, and we'll learn from the mistakes of the other ecosystems, and we'll grow.
Soumik?
আমার একটা প্রশ্ন যে কোনো বাডিং এন্টারপ্রেনারের জন্য আপনার কোনো অ্যাডভাইস কি হবে? ধরুন কেউ গ্রামের দিকে, যেরকম বললেন পুরুলিয়া বা রামপুরহাট বা আরো প্রত্যন্ত গ্রামে আছে, সে কোনো স্টার্টআপ করতে চায়,
জেনারেলি কি হয়, লোকে মনে করে যে প্রথমেই মাইক্রোসফট অ্যাপল বানিয়ে ফেলবে। অ্যাপল শুরু হয়েছে গ্যারাজ থেকে, আমার একটা গ্যারাজ বানিয়ে ফেলবো। সো ডোন্ট গো ফল ফর দ্যাট ট্র্যাপ। প্রথমে যেটা করবে, ধরো তুমি যেখানেই থাকো, figure out a problem that you can easily solve, or start with even something simpler like a drop shipping or buying something locally, selling on Amazon. So what happens is, a process that tumi shikhbe how to manage money, how to develop relations with people, how to negotiate, how to communicate. এই বেসিক স্কিলস গুলো আমাদের কলেজ স্কুল শেখায় না, কিন্তু এগুলো না হলে ব্যবসা করা যায় না। How do you learn with the basics, right? এটা শেখা হয়ে গেল, then you go to the next step, right? You hire some people. That's a whole new experience. বোকা বানবে, you hire the wrong people, and that's okay. তারপরে next step, এরকম করে একটা স্টেপ করে বোঝো যে একটা ব্যবসা শুরু করা মানে যে জায়গা তুমি দেখছো, you don't get there from step one. So start with the internship or something, do some build something, make some content marketing, digital marketing, যা সব টিনেজাররা এখনকার দিনে করছে। অনেকে তো ইউটিউব অটোমেট করে টাকা রোজগার করছে, জাস্ট টেক্সট টু স্পিচ করে দিয়ে, কিছু ছবি টবি দিয়ে অটোমেটেড করে, millions of followers making money. This one guy in Asansol, he is making 30 lakhs a month, just recently bought a Mercedes. কিচ্ছু করে না, he has a whole automated system, every day 10 খানা ভিডিও আপলোড হয়ে যায় ইউটিউবে, and people watch things about কি করে IAS হতে হবে, কি করে SSC পরীক্ষা দিতে হবে in Hindi, Bangla and all that, and he's making money. So point is, you can do any of those things that are very simple to do. Learn how the process works, learn the mindset, and then take the next step, and then come up with something innovative if you want to do it that way. Some product development, some app or something. Prothomei jhap dile, you will find it difficult to deal with. So start with the problem, solution, get the team, and then call Kolkata Ventures. We'll be happy to help. So I'm always accessible. I mean, যে কোনো মানে আমার সব সোশ্যাল মিডিয়াতেই আমি নিজে রেসপন্ড করি, within 48 hours I respond. LinkedIn, Instagram, and আমার নামটাই এমন, it's easy to find me. Avelo Roy click করলে আমাকেই পাবে, আর করে কিছু হবে না। So you can always reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you.
তো আজকে বোধহয় আমরা আড্ডার শেষের দিকে অলমোস্ট। দুটো প্রশ্ন ছিল আপনার জন্য। একটা প্রশ্ন অলরেডি আপনি অনেকবার ইঙ্গিত দিয়েছেন, বাট আই উড লাইক টু ফর্মালাইজ দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন। হোয়াট ড্রাইভস ইউ অ্যাজ আ VC come incubator? Second thing would be if you could just end off with your VC pitch, a typical VC pitch that you would have, because it's traditionally understood that people pitch to investors for capital, but it's also a two-way process. Investors also pitch to good startup entrepreneurs because they would like to have some startups on board. So yeah.
Sure. What drives me is to build India, to be honest. By God's grace, I have had 3 exits. The money I have made is enough to live my life and have the same lifestyle, no problem. So money is not what drives me. I want to see India a better India, and for that CEOs are leaders. Politicians শুধরানো যাবে না, কিছু করার নেই, but at least if the business people, who are the bosses of politicians, to be honest, businessman টাকা ছাড়া politics চলবে না. So if the CEOs are men or women of character, and they can build great companies, they can treat their employees well, overall society will have an impact. So I'm starting from that. These are the most influential people. It's not the TikTok influencers. It's the CEOs who are the most influential people because their decisions impact thousands of lives. And that's what motivates me. Because actually, we even have Bhagavad Gita study on Friday nights called Philosophy Friday. It's open to all our startups and whatnot. So they come and they learn the Bhagavad Gita, how to apply that in their lives, in their business, in their relationships and everything. So character development is happening and business development is happening. So jobs are being created and the leaders are being trained to be good human beings and good CEOs. And that's what motivates me. That আমি যদি আজকে মরে যাই, at least in my short life, whatever I've done will have a long lasting impact that will grow my country in a positive way, not just financially, but as if you look at it, বাইরের দেশের লোকেরা কত এথিক্যাল, আমাদের এখানে করাপশন বেশি, আমরা চিটিং করে পরীক্ষা পাস করি, অ্যাজ ইফ মিথ্যে কথা বলাটা কোনো ব্যাপারই না, রাইট? And that needs to change. If capitalism has to work in India, we have to work on our ethics. And I feel like that is my role that I play, is like business incubation, funding, all of that is there, but also character development. That's one aspect. And as you said, as a VC, I don't call myself a VC, but I'm not also openly approachable, right? We don't work the typical way that VCs work. You apply, give your pitch deck, and there's a call. The only way we work is when we educate you, where we have the opportunity and privilege to educate you in entrepreneurship, and we see you, we learn who you are. There is trust. Only then the funds flow. So in that process, we get to know each other, and it goes from that. So we don't want to make ourselves easily available. We want to do quality work, not quantity work, right? That's how it happens. And if somebody likes somebody like me as an investor, then you have to build that relationship to come on board.
Thank you so much for coming today. Khub bhalo laglo. And all the best for your future avenues, ventures, and all the best to Kolkata and West Bengal in general. Hopefully, we'll have a much more vibrant startup ecosystem there in the coming years.
Thank you so much, and thanks to both of you, Soumik and Srinjoy. Very, very nice talking.